Sure, so there's, I mean, lots of games have gore and they all work in different ways, but where the flesh system really takes it forward is how it has this progressive effect, so you can continue to damage in many, many different ways as you attack a zombie. I think other games, well, if we didn't have the flesh system in Dead Island 2, you'd be hitting a zombie, you might get some effect, you might get like a wound on the zombie that you know, you get one, you get two, you can chop off arms, but you can't get that progressive feeling where you get this, you can fight it for ages, a zombie for a while, and just get more damage, more feedback, and that real feeling that the zombies are made of something, that they've got bits inside of them, and that they're sort of a volume of mass instead of just a shell that you're hitting.
So it's really just a procedural way to damage characters in the game, and obviously Dead Island 2 is a zombie game. It's all about hitting zombies with things, usually at very close range, and so we really wanted to make sure that the impacts felt impactful. And obviously it's a zombie game, people want lots of gore, so we really came up with it as a method for just making the minute-to-minute gameplay more enjoyable and more fun and more visually spectacular, and also to sort of hit the tone of the that kind of schlocky, kind of pulpy, gory kind of horror tone that we've got. So yeah, it's a fundamental part of the game. It's entirely procedural, so all of the different zombie types, they're all sort of set up in the same way so that we can apply damage anywhere on the zombie, and it will go through the layers of like skin, fat, and muscle, and then break through to the bones and the internal organs. Obviously the models are slightly different in terms of, like, one of the big crusher zombies has got much larger guts than a small zombie, but the system is entirely the same across all of them.
There was a point early on where there was, we had scheduled meetings about early parts of developing the game, and there was one about dismemberment, and it was sort of like the agenda of the meeting was how many points of dismemberment can we have, what models do we need to divide these zombies into, what's the pipeline going to look like, and it was just before that meeting, in a way, we had a little bit of a, knock our heads together before we go in and see what we want to say on our side. And, we had these ideas. We thought, oh, we can do this procedural system. And then these questions about how many points of dismemberment, what do we need to break it into, they just sort of got flipped on their head. It was like, well, there's no need to decide how many points of dismemberment. There's no need to decide how many pieces we need to break the zombie into. We can do this procedural system, and it unlocks like so many things. And that was really early on, and I think it really drove that way of thinking about sort of attacking the zombies in the game, and even the content pipeline, right?
Yeah.
It gave us this. It empowered us to sort of say, from early on, we want a new zombie. Do we have to make all the pieces of the new zombie? Well, no, we just need to make the zombie and then apply the flesh system to it. And that all just works, and it was really good to have that locked in really early on. From the start, the way it works is, if we want damage to look different, we can just do that. We get an artist sets up like the damage parameters for a weapon. So those combinations, you say, we've got a sword and it needs to like slash in this way, it needs to dismember, or chop a zombie in half or whatever. That's something that we can just set up. And if we want a different way, we want a sledgehammer, it's got to have this sort of blunt impact look to it. Again, we just set that up on the weapon, and then that works across all the zombies because they've got this single unified system for damaging them. So it was, it's been really nice that we can just sort of add things, and we don't have to go, oh, we need to change something to make this work with the system. It just works with the system.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think like a lot of other systems that you see in games, there'll be like kind of decals that get applied, or like switchable like bits that happen, and so then those bits then have to, if you wanted to do something different for a sword and then like a sledgehammer, you'd have to make different models for those, figure out how they were going to fit in, all that stuff, whereas actually the precision of the system is enough with the flesh system that we can just say, okay, well, the damage is here, and you'll get a slash and it will look like a slash, whereas with like in the sledgehammer you go, well, it's here and it's a bit more of this kind of shape and it'll look like that. And there's actually a lot of things They aren't immediately noticeable, I don't think, when you're playing, but they're there. Like, we can put like bruising around the wounds and stuff like that, so that you get kind of a different result from different types of weapons. Yeah, and it's something that we did have to balance across the course of development, because obviously you want the wounds to look, you know, impressive, and we have a thing where we've got some weapons are very small, so you've got like a dagger, right? And it's like, if you like stab someone with a dagger and like take off like half their chest, that doesn't feel right. So you can't do that. And then we've got other weapons that are larger, like sledgehammers and stuff like that. And so you can, in theory, go up to a zombie, just stab it the same time, like a few times in the same place, and then obviously you're not going to get a lot of damage over the whole body. So we've really tried to like kind of balance it so that when you do a hit, depending on how much health the zombie has left and how much health that particular part of the zombie has left, it will kind of feel like the result that you get from that hit is kind of indicative of how much health the zombie has. So if you do a little stab and not a lot happens, but you get something, then he's still pretty tough. And if you do a stab and you take quite a big chunk out, then he's closer to death. So yeah, it's definitely something we've thought a lot about and put a lot of work into getting right. And it's been really useful as well, because we've got a very large variety of zombies as well. So even like before you start damaging them, we've got, I don't know, hundreds, thousands, it's lots of different zombie models that you'll see, because we really wanted to get across, like, often when you play a zombie game, like the zombies are just this sort of grey kind of mass that all kind of look a bit like each other, you know what I mean? And it's, I think one of the things that we really wanted to get across because of the setting in LA was that, you know, well, these were people who used to actually live in LA before the zombie outbreak happened, and they're recognizable as that. They feel like people, you know, rather than just these sort of shuffling monsters. And because we've got all these different character models, because we can just treat them all with the same system, we don't have to author specific things for each of the different. So if we then go, oh, we need a new group of zombies because we want the, I don't know, police station to have police zombies in it, or whatever it is, then we can just go, okay, we just build the character models, and then that's basically it. And then the flesh system takes care of the rest. So it's definitely been helpful in that regard. I mean, I think it's made life more difficult for the character artists in other ways, because obviously they had to, like, you know, every single zombie now needs to be, like, you know, fully modelled internally, but that asset is shared across any zombie of the same size. So it's, yeah, everyone's the same on the inside. That's the positive message of Dead Island 2.
One of the parts of that variety as well is, if we think we want zombies to have a different set of wounds, we can use the same system to apply those wounds. So the artists don't have to go, oh, well, we want to model this zombie that's got half its torso missing. We go, no, just put the zombie in and then use the system to get rid of half the torso.
Yeah, we've got like a splatter editor that you can use to take any zombie and then like modify the zombie, like put damage here, do like blood dripping down here or whatever, and then sort of save that state so that then when the zombie is spawned into the game, it'll look like that to begin with.
How far you can go with it is sort of the natural product of how the system works. You know, it's procedural. The stopping point would have to be something we'd say, oh, well, we have to put a stopping point in it. You know, we've settled these zombies with this procedural gore system, this damage system, where you can effectively reduce them down to nothing. Why not sort of let that just go as far as it can go? Just have it so you can completely destroy them. I mean, it's the flesh system works in such a nice way in that regard that it would be something we'd have to artificially introduce if we wanted to limit that.
Yeah, and I think we did. When we first started developing it, we had a version which was kind of it didn't go as far, because it was basically roughly the same technology in terms of damaging the kind of outer layer of the zombie, and then it would deform, and you'd get the kind of sort of, like I say, the layers of like skin, fat, muscle. But then once we got down to the muscle layer, that was basically another model of the zombie inside the outer model of the zombie. And then that was as far as you could go. and we found that it wasn't quite satisfying enough, because you'd go like, oh, I've damaged this zombie, and then you're like, all right, okay, now he's just like a kind of meat man, and I can't really do anything else. And that was when we came up with the idea of basically making them more like a kind of zombie pinata, where they're actually like kind of hollow and filled with organs, which I think really gives it that sort of next level of ridiculousness that I don't think I've seen anywhere else.
I think we've sort of we've talked about how we've aimed for sort of film style gore. It's not real, it's like fake real from a film. It's supposed to look realistic, made out of real stuff, but it's got that extremeness to it. It's not supposed to make you think, oh, this is horrible, I don't want to see this. You're supposed to go, oh, this is horrible, I do want to see this,
I guess I can take it back to when I first saw like a movie like RoboCop, right? Like when I first saw RoboCop, it changed my life. And the bit where the guy falls in the toxic waste and then he gets like melty, and then the car comes along and hits him, and then he explodes and his head kind of bounces off the windshield. Like that was that was a moment as a teenager when I saw that. I was just like, this is amazing. I didn't realise that anyone would go that far, you know what I mean? And I kind of wanted to recreate that feeling for other people, hopefully.
A perfect combination of disgusted and impressed.
Yes, exactly.
Together.
Disgusted, impressed.
Don't know if there's a word for it.
And also, it's like so far that you have to laugh as well.
Yeah,
like it's kind of So that was the feeling that I was really keen to get into the game.